Originally, this was going to be a product review on this generic USB-C adapter for your MacBook Air or MacBook Pro, but now I'm going to tell you why you should avoid some of these generic products and go with some other products from proven companies like Anker. Let's get into it. So if you have a MacBook Pro or MacBook Air made after 2016, you'll know that one of the biggest complaints that people have are the lack of ports. You usually only have 2 ports or 4 ports. And in my case, I have the 2017 MacBook Pro without Touch Bar, and I only have 2 ports. So there's the need of dongles, docks, or adapters. Hi, my name is Patrick, and this is Everyday Tech for everyday people. And this is the second time I'm recording this video. Originally, I was doing a review on this generic USB-C adapter, but after doing some tests and after doing some simple benchmarks, I realized that this is a product that maybe you should avoid. Now, I do have a 7-port USB-C adapter by Anker, and this has been a very well-performing and very solid product for me. Now, I wanted to see if a product that is about a fourth of the price can keep up with the Anker. And in short, no. In this video, I'm going to go over why you should spend the extra money for something like the Anker and just show you kind of the build quality and the test results that I got while doing this review. Now, instead of filming everything over again, I'm going to insert some clips from my original recording that are relevant, but then go over some of the test results and show you why I stopped the original review. As far as build quality is concerned, the Anker one is definitely the better built one. With an all metal casing, it feels like it's going to last a long time. Now, the Llama one has this hard plastic. It almost feels metal, but it's actually plastic. It's very well built, but when you compare the two together, definitely the winner is the Anker one. Okay, build quality is one thing, but how does it function and how does it perform? Well, let me first bring up the picture of the box that shows all the specs, and I'm going to point out a few interesting things here. Let me just go through them one by one. The item number 1 is HDTV. That refers to the HDMI port, and I do confirm that it did work for me. Item number 2 is USB x2. Those refer to the 2 USB-A ports. Those did work, but I will get to the test results in a second. And then item number 3 and 4 are the interesting ones. Item number 3 is USB-C female port 1. Item number 4 is port number 2. But in port number 3, it says PD, power delivery, and it gives you the specs of how much power it outputs, right? And number 4 shows high-speed USB-C power supply up to 4.5 watts max. That's normal. That does help power whatever you're plugged into it as well. Whether that's enough power, it's up to you, right? It's up to your needs. But the difference is, if you look at item number 2 and 4, they have a word in there called high speed, and number 3 doesn't. Which means, and I confirm this, that USB-C port, is actually not a data port. It's actually for power only. So on my Anker, I'm able actually, the Anker one is both a USB-C power and also data port. And actually, I think it passes through the Thunderbolt 3 specs, which includes display support, right? So I'm able to actually do a dual monitor setup on my MacBook Pro with this using the HDMI cable here, HDMI port I mean, and this USB-C port. That does pass through the display port specs here. So I can power up 2 monitors using this one. When I was trying to plug in any kind of device into that USB-C port, item number 3 on the specs here, it didn't do anything because it's only a power port, which is quite disappointing. So this generic one is a 7-port hub, but it's not 7 ports of data. One of them is only used for power. And then rounding out the specs here, you have the USB-C male port, which are the 2 ports as far as what you connected into the computer. And then you have the SDTF card reader, which did work, but I will get to my test results in a second. But before I get into the test results, one thing I'll notice here, it says made for MacBook 2018, 2017, 2016, and all these other specs. I have not tried this on any newer one. I'm assuming it's going to work for 2019, 2020 and the M1 Max, but I believe this packaging is probably pretty old, so that's why they didn't list those specs here. But I have not tried to test it on those. Okay, but how does it perform? So here's how I set up my test. I used an external hard drive, my Western Digital EasyStore 4 terabyte spinning hard drive. It's a 7200 RPM. It's a spinning hard drive, so it's a little bit slower. USB 3 external hard drive. And so I plugged it directly into my MacBook Pro using a USB-A to USB-C adapter, and I got about 165 megabytes per second read and write. So the performance is okay. Not the best, but it's good for storage, and that's what I mainly use it for. Now, as far as when I plugged it into the Anker, I'm happy to say I got very similar performances, about 165 megabytes per second. But when it came to the generic USB-C adapter, when I plugged it into the USB-A port, I was getting about 33 megabytes per second. And that's 5 times slower, a fifth of the speed when I used it with the Anker and when I had it plugged in directly. So that was very disappointing. And that was both on the both USB-A ports, and when I used the USB-A to USB-C port and I plugged into the one data USB-C port, I was getting very similar performances. Okay, then I wanted to use my SSD drive. I had my Samsung T7 half a terabyte SSD drive, and when I plugged it directly into my MacBook Pro, it gave me about a 450 megabyte per second write speed and about almost 900 megabytes a second read speed, which is typical for this type of SSD. It's a pretty high performing SSD. When I plugged in the Anker USB-C adapter, it's interesting. I got very similar speeds as it was directly plugged in with one of the USB-C ports. I think that one's that's the pass-through Thunderbolt 3 port, and I got really good speeds with that. The interesting thing is I got half those speeds with using the other USB-C port. But now when it came to the generic USB-C adapter, none of the ports would work. Of course, one of them is just a power delivery port, and the other one was supposed to be a USB 3 USB-C port, and it wouldn't even read the SSD at all. So that was very disappointing. Okay, then I did a test on the card reader, and mainly the micro SD card reader, because that's all I had available at the time. It's a very high performing one, but on the Anker, it gave me about an average about 85 megabytes per second, both read and write, which is not bad for a card reader. When it came to the generic card reader or generic USB-C adapter, the card reader on that would only read it about 20 to 25 megabytes per second, which is very disappointing. About 4 times less, or a fourth of the performance of the Anker card reader. So what have we learned from this experience? Well, a number of things. First, when it comes to certain types of products, make sure you go with the trusted brands that are out there. Now, Anker might not be a brand like Samsung, Dell, or Apple, but when it comes to accessories, especially in mobility, laptops, phones, iPads, etc., Anker's got you covered. As far as shopping is concerned, make sure to really know how to read some of the specs that are shown either on the box or in the description of the item itself. Now, I'm glad I went with Amazon because they do have a good return policy. So right now, I don't even have that product with me. I've already returned it. It's only been a day since I got it. And I was like, nope, this is out of here. So one thing I'll say about purchasing these products, I did get the generic one on sale through a coupon through Vipon. So if you haven't seen my video on Vipon, check out the video here. As far as the Anker one is concerned, this retails for about $60, but I did find it on sale when I got this for about $35. So there are deals to be had out there, but make sure you just do really go with the trusted brands out there. This has been very reliable for me, and I've used it for a number of meetings as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like and consider subscribing. Until the next one, see ya.